we're back.
Yay!
Dave, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, Jay.
So my name is Jay Grossman. I am the founder and CEO of AutoAgent.com, and this is Mr.
David Marks with Quality Auto STL, where you get trusted services with no surprises.
We have, I'm going to tell you this. I say this a lot. I know I do. But this is going to be one of the most exciting episodes for so many people. Because if you have a teenager, well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that if you do.
Or if you have an up-and-coming teenager.
Yeah, exactly. Dave, how many calls do you get, I don't know, a week asking what car to buy for your teenager?
That's the most popular topic. That's what I sell. I'm in that 3 to 6 range. And, I'm in kid car territory. The neighborhoods and around here, that's what people want. They want those 3 to 6 for their teenager.
I'm going to tell you this. We have an amazing step-by-step program to provide you today on how you can buy that teenager car without getting scammed. And before we begin, I'd like to really thank one of our main sponsors, Techie Tony with Techie Tony Media. If you guys like this podcast, I really recommend that you reach out to Techie Tony, because if you're looking to start a podcast like this one and you're not sure like where to start, he has so graciously offered to our listening audience to offer them a free consultation to learn about their needs to see if he would be a good fit to help them. And if you just simply email start@techieTonyMedia.com, that's start@techieTonyMedia.com, and you tell them that the Auto Authorities sent you.
Yeah.
We have a big show today for all you that are joining us. We are talking about how to buy a car for your teenager. We're going to give you a step-by-step, and we're going to do it right after this. Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride when buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay.
And I'm Dave.
And this is the podcast that tells you what to watch out for, whether you're buying, selling,
or repairing your car.
With 47 years of automotive experience, we are the Automotive Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by AutoAgent. We're real estate agents for cars.
And Quality Auto STL. Trusted services with no surprises.
And we're back.
I love the little dance. Can you do that some more so everybody can see that?
I'm actually not too bad. I'm a little out of practice, Dave. But let's not talk about dancing today. Let's talk about cars and teenagers.
Yeah, that's right. Duh, that's why we're here.
If I did this math equation, cars plus teenagers equals what? How would that math equation go?
I don't know.
Well, if you're a parent out there, listen closely. Today, we're going to give you step-by-step how to buy that car for your teenager. I get a call almost every day from people asking, hey, Jay, could you help me get a car for my teenager? And you know what I do? I say, talk to Mr. David Marks of Quality STL, Quality Audio STL, trusted services with no surprises. And Dave, let's start about step one, researching and developing a budget. What in your mind do you think is the dollar amount that somebody should spend on a teenager car? Because I have a little bit different probably opinion than that. But what do you think it is?
I think the ideal is that 3 to 6 range, anywhere maybe 7 at the most. I don't think it's smart to spend over that. I mean, it's a temporary car. It's their first car. So they might wreck it. I've had a lot of people where they wrecked another one. What do you got now? Over the years. And unfortunately that happens. And you can get a lot of bang for your buck in that window. I've sold plenty in that 3 to 7 range that, I would put my wife in, my kids in. I don't have kids. So we'd put Jay's kids in it and not have any issues. So I think that's the ideal. I think people that are spending the 10 to 15 are just throwing money away.
Yeah, I hate to say, but I'm one of those guilty people. I had a 2009 Lexus RX 350 that was my wife's car, which was a really, really great car. It really was, until I gave it to my daughter. And 5 accidents later, when cars get hit and they get hit very hard, they don't like that very much. Unfortunately, they really don't like it very much. But I'm in agreement with Dave. If you can find, Dave really comes across some great cars in that range. But I think that, one of the things that's very concerning to parents, and it should be, speaking of accidents, is safety. And there's a lot of great websites that you can simply Google out there. There's the National Highway Traffic Safety. Oh, someone sent us
a comment. Yeah, what kind of car can you get for 3 to 7? Camrys
Dave,
and Hondas,
what do you think?
Kias.
We actually have lots of comments actually coming through.
Yeah, I actually have it's an 09 Camry. I bought off a customer last week, 142,000 miles on it. I got to do a couple things to it, but that should be ready to go next week, and that's on the high. That's on the high end of that 7, but that's ideal for a teenager.
I think that also, too, we need to talk about safety ratings, and, something like that car could be, and thank you very much for that comment.
Yeah.
If you can actually pop up your name if you subscribe. So there's a little link. If you leave your comments, you can leave your comments below and we'll answer all your questions, because we may not be able to get all the questions answered today because we have so much to talk about and we're still on step 1. But I would also say avoid convertibles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how many times, I hate to say this, and this is not something we want to think about as parents, but teenagers don't drive slow typically.
And, I sure hell didn't.
Well, no. And if at least if you're in a car, and I say, God forbid, you have that steel roll cage around you, right, in the car. But if you have a convertible, you don't have that protection if you, God forbid, you roll the vehicle, right? And so those are something you want to think about, parents, because it's hard, because all these other kids at school are getting convertibles and Jeep Wranglers and all these different cars. But think of it this way. You want to have your kid around for a while. So really look at those safety ratings, really stay away from convertibles, and start really checking online for reviews, again, about these cars. But what you really want to do is the next step is probably, I think, the most important. And you want to land with either a company, meaning a dealer, or a private owner, and you want to make sure they're legit. Does anybody want to know some tips and golden nuggets on how to make sure they're...
I do.
You want to know?
I do.
Take out your notepad, because I'm going to talk fast. When you are looking for a car nowadays, and you're looking for the teenage, somebody says they want to know.
Yeah, they want to know.
I love this interaction. Keep sending comments. Yeah. Look at this. Everybody's boy, there's lots of people commenting. So here's what you do. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to look at Facebook Marketplace, or you're going to look at Craigslist. That's typically where you're going to find the teenager car. But here's where you can go wrong if you're not careful. There are many what I call curb stoners, or dealers that pose that they're private owners. And they do that because they want to deceive you. And it used to be where Craigslist was free, okay? And Facebook is free for a private owner, but it's not free for a dealer to post their car. And the only way a private owner can post on Facebook, to my knowledge, I'm sorry, the only way you can post on Facebook as not coming through a dealer is you have to pay for it if you're a dealer, bottom line. But here's how you do it. When you're looking at the ad, the first thing you're going to look for is the license plate, and you look to see if it's a dealer plate. Right then and there will tell you if you're working with a dealer or are you working with a private owner.
Or if it doesn't have any plates on it, because
or it doesn't have any plates. Now, if they've covered the plate, that's okay. You should cover your license plate when you're listing your car.
That's a good sign it's not a dealer, it's a private owner.
I agree with that 100%. And then the other thing you can do is look in the background. Do you see a dealer sign? Do you see other inventory? When you're looking inside the car and you see the key tag hanging from the ignition, does it have a dealer tag on it? When you're looking at the windshield on the top right corner, when you're looking at the windshield on the driver's side, do you see a dealer tag on it? Those are all indications that you're working with the dealer. But do you want to know one of the number one ways that you can find out if you're working with the dealer when you're buying a private owner car? Or I'm sorry, a car for your teenager? Does anybody want to know? No. The number one way that you find out is this. You look at their profile and see how many other cars they're selling.
Yeah.
If they're selling 4 other cars and Guido is the profile.
I figured it'd be Bobby.
Well, Bobby's the buyer. And actually, Bobby called me. Actually, he contacted me. I should tell you a story, but that's a whole nother story. So here's what happens is now you have a picture and you know who you're dealing with. It's really important too, because if it turns out that you're buying a car and it's like this super awesome deal, be very, very, very careful, because you might be buying a scam. You might be buying a stolen vehicle. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. If it's a dealer, to buy a car in that range, I'm going to say that David Marks is probably in the top 0.5% to 1% when it comes to buying a car like that. Most people that are buying those cars cannot be trusted, in my experience. That is why I send everybody that I know to David when they're looking for a car for the teenager. I'm probably not going to be the best fit for a $3,000 to $6,000 car. So it's very important to know who you're dealing with. The next thing, Dave, what do you think? So next thing, step 3, test drives. What do you think about that?
Well, something that popped in my head that neither one of us really thought about is, yeah, that's great. Test drive it, during the day. But also, I think it's more important to test drive at night. You want to make sure that teenager can properly see out of the vehicle at night.
Wow. That's a great move there. But let me ask you this. I'm going to throw you a curveball, Dave. You didn't.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Everybody listening? What if the teenager's not there and the parents are surprising them?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to say. I have no comeback. You got it.
I had to do it. I had to. But here's the reality is Dave's right, is that you got to make sure that they can drive it at night. What the best way to do it is if you know that you're not going to buy the car and you go test drive it at night. And then, of course, you tell them that, hey, we're not getting you a car right now. And then they throw a big stink. Oh my gosh, you're not getting me a car. Why aren't you getting me a car? And then you go buy the car like my parents did for me when I was younger. They didn't take me with them. And then all of a sudden my dad said to me, he's like, hey, someone scratched your car in the garage. I'm like, what do you mean someone scratched my car? Nobody scratched my car. And then I open it up. I'm like, oh my gosh. I got the best parents in the world. No, but the thing is that here's the bottom line. You should test drive it at night. And I'll go a step further. Make sure that they can park the darn thing. And I'm going to say this from experience, using my wonderful daughter as an example, who I love very much. In this Lexus, when we were teaching her how to drive, she didn't realize that she had a backup camera. And she backed up faster than she went forward and hit a mailbox, put the massive dent in the back. Hence the reason why you do not want to go buy more than a $3,000 to $6,000 car if you can find a good, solid car, really. And again, David Marks, is in the top 1% out of anybody that I possibly know. There is not one other person or dealer that I would ever send anybody to buy a car of that level, ever. I usually will say, go to a private owner, you'll get a better deal. But again, you got to vet their reputation first. And it's so key to do that. So the test drives, what else do you think on the test drives, Dave?
Well, I think it's important that, they drive the car.
Yeah.
I would think switch back and forth. Let the parents drive it. The parents are more familiar with cars, and let the teenager drive it. How well can they? And I think you hit a good one, Jake. Can they park the car?
I'm serious.
I think it's great. Go to a parking lot, have a shopping mall or whatever, and have them pull in a spot, and then have them back out. Can they see when they back out? You got to simulate all these real world experiences, because when you send them out, that's what's gonna happen. And I think, can they see? Can they look over the shoulder and see the blind spot? Does it have the little blind spot? I hate that lane departure warning system. That's a joke.
Yeah,
but
there's so many different pieces. There's so many different pieces of technology now.
It's just making dumb drivers, you ask me. But I think that stuff's important. What's their visibility in the car? And parking it is a great way to find out how well do they see.
Well, and also when it comes to little dings and dents, don't be too particular on that. A good solid running car, Dave, is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, that's more important than scratches, dings, and dents. That's what's going to happen anyway. So just match the other side. Yeah,
they may not look so pretty in some of it, and here it comes down to your budget too, and what you feel like. Should I buy my kid a nicer car, or they are going to beat it up? And I'm going to tell you, I'm as guilty as anybody. I bought my kids, a more expensive car. And, you eat that, right? You're going to pay for it. So when we got rid of the Lexus, we had spent, I think, $15,000 on it or something like that. I don't remember. It was worth $3,000 when we were done. And we were lucky to get that $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah. It was beat up, every single panel, ripped seats, smelled in there. It was a typical teenager driving the car.
Sure.
But that's something really to go with. But let me ask you this, Dave. What do you think about the brands of cars? So when people are out there looking, what should they be looking for as brands? What are the brands that are going to get them the best bang for their buck and the most longevity out of their car? Well,
just avoid anything European right off the bat. I know that's not what you ask, but no, because they just cost way too much to maintain. They'll cost more to fix than what you paid for the car.
Well, that's such a good point. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, that's okay. I'm biased towards Hyundai, Kia, and Ford. I don't think Toyota.
Porsche? Did you say Porsche?
No, not Porsche.
I'm kidding.
No, but I think Hyundai, Kia, or Ford. I would not buy Chrysler, and I would not buy GM. I would buy a Hyundai, Kia, or Ford. Toyota and Honda, their reputation not worth it. They're overpriced, overvalued. I don't care what anybody says. We fix them too, just like everything else. But those would be the three brands that I would lean towards: with Hyundai, Kia, and Ford. I just won't pay for. I wouldn't pay for Toyota and Honda's reputation.
Well, that's interesting, and I'll give you my opinion on European cars. But when they're let's talk about the test drive. So when they're test driving the car, what are the things that they should be looking for? I have some things, but I want to see what our expert says.
Oh, well, how do the brakes feel? How is the steering? How is the steering too tight or is it too loose for them? I think it's important to ask your teenager questions. How does this feel? How does this feel? And drive multiple vehicles. Don't just buy the first thing you see. Drive multiple so they get a good feel because different cars feel differently. They just do. And you want to find something that they feel confident in behind the wheel, not, this feels a little loose to me, or I don't like this, or, where's the instrument cluster position? Can they see the how fast they're going? Can they see the coolant temperature gauge? You know, they're going to mess with the radio. So how can they see the radio? How's all that visibility?
So we got this little thing called Carfax that we've talked about. Okay,
I like this one. I would pick a manual transmission all day because there's less chance for distracted driving when they got to shift the car.
So we have a question about stick shift or automatic from Anthony Jackson. But here's the reality too. I do, as much as I know that Carfaxes are really inaccurate, so are auto checks. I do recommend pulling a Carfax on every car that you drive or decide to buy. It'll at least give you somewhat of the history behind it. And one of the things I really want to talk about is flood damaged cars potentially, and how to spot if a car has been in a massive accident. One of the things, and I'll let Dave chime in on this too, but one of the things that cars have is they have VIN codes on all the panels for the most part. And if it's missing a VIN code on one panel, so for instance, if you open the hood and you look to the right on the fender, real small, you'll see typically a VIN code. And it's
stamped in there.
Exactly the same on the other side. And the bolts all should be factory painted on both sides. So everything should look even. Those are some ways that you can tell, because Carfax and AutoCheck do not report accidents for every accident that they have. They only report what is reported to them. Yeah, go ahead.
Another good indication is when you pop the hood. You know, we call it the hood insulator. It's that foam piece that's attached to the bottom of it.
The fire.
And are there stickers on there? You know, a lot of these manufacturers put stickers onto the hood. If I open up a hood and you see nothing, there's no stickers, no nothing. Well, that's a good indication that this hood is not original. It's been replaced. And I love what you said, Jay, about the VIN numbers being stamped on the fender,
yep,
where it's bolted to the body.
Also on the doors, and especially in a lot of the Japanese cars, they're going to have a VIN sticker on each of the doors. And the other way that you can tell if a car's been in an accident is, how does the hood line up with the fender? Are there big gaps in there? When you run your finger on the back of the hood, is it smooth? If it's not smooth, that means that the hood's probably been repainted. And these are things that should not necessarily be deterrents, but I'm going to go to my next thing here that I really want to cover, and that's the pre-purchase inspection. A pre-purchase inspection is done by a licensed technician that is an impartial party. You need to take that vehicle to them, and if the owner and or dealer does not allow you to take it to your independent mechanic, you need to walk away from the deal. Do not try to buy a $3,000 to $6,000 car without having an expert look at it.
No.
A $3,000 to $6,000 car is a harder car to buy than a $25,000 car.
Absolutely.
It's harder to buy. There's more potential red flags. And if you're listening to this and you just hopped on, only take your car to a licensed technician, and do not ever buy a car without doing that. I don't care how well you know the person. They could be thinking, oh, my car is so wonderful. And guess what? Their car may not be so wonderful.
That's happened plenty of times where people have bought a car, they bring it in here. The person they bought it from could have been the most honest person you'd ever meet, but they don't know there's hidden issues. And then they paid $4,000, they paid $5,000 for it. And I tell them it needs $2,000 worth of work. Well, then they just paid $7,000.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I have people all the time, they come to iAutoAgent. Obviously everybody knows we're real estate agents for cars. So they come to us and they're like, hey, you know what? Can I sell my car to you? Or can you sell my car for me? And the answer is yes. And then all of a sudden they may come back and they're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to go sell it to my cousin. Oh, that's going to make a nice dinner conversation when the cousin, I'm like, have you ever sold a car to a family member? The conversation goes a little bit like this at dinner time. You know that car you sold me? Does it make a little noise at 60 miles an hour where the wheel starts shaking and it makes a little noise? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, that's the dinner conversation.
That's been doing that for years.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You didn't tell me about that when you sold it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we could go on and on about this.
Oh, yeah. But, and then I want to cover this too. Like, I call this the price versus cost. What Mr. David Marks said is that stay away from European cars. And I'm in a complete agreement to a certain extent. When you are buying a car, and it is a European car, you have the price and you have the cost. The price is what you pay. The cost is what it's going to really cost you. And many, many times, the cost will outweigh what you paid for the car. So just remember price versus cost. And just know when you buy a European car, and I know Volvos are super safe, but they are not cheap to fix.
No, I have to go back to the dealer to buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's mobile. Same thing with any one of them. You know, the only exception to that would be I do have a customer who's got an older Jaguar when Ford owned Jaguar, and it's the same. There's a lot of Ford stuff under the hood. That's probably the only exception. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but Ford owned Jaguar, Aston Martin, and Land Rover for a period of time. And I think it was like the S-Type and the Lincoln LS and something else were all.
Oh, yeah.
That might be the only exception. I mean, Volkswagen, it is what it is. They're not bad, but just make sure that when you buy one, if you're going to buy one that price range, that it's been maintained properly. If not, you're going to pay through the nose.
Yeah. I think what everybody's learned today is you're buying a car for your teenager. You want to research the car. You want to make sure you understand what the budget is. You want to know what the repairs that you're going to have to do to the car by taking it to a licensed technician to do the pre-purchase inspection. You want to make sure that you're dealing with a really reputable person when you are looking on Facebook or you're looking on Craigslist. Make sure they're really a person. Make sure that the title matches the VIN number on the title matches the car's VIN number. I mean, really, these are things that most people don't think about. They just see the car, they see the title. It's like, okay, I'll sign off on the title. But what they may not realize is they may be buying a car from somebody that they don't even own that car.
No, they're jumping title.
Yes. And really, if you're going to buy a car for a teenager, you might want to stick with something that's a little bit more on the basic side. Getting into European cars, it could get pricey for you. Their BMWs look really cool. The Volvos are cool. They're not fun to fix. And the technicians lick their chops when you're coming. Yep.
I see dollar signs.
Ooh, what a great episode. Hey, real quick, I wanted to again thank our sponsor, Techie Tony with Techie Tony Media. He is so graciously offering, if you're looking to start a podcast, you should send him an email right now at start@techieTonymedia.com. That's start@techieTonymedia.com. He's going to give you a free consultation. I want everybody to have a podcast. I love doing this, Dave. We have so much fun doing this. We have the most amazing people. Please like and subscribe and share our podcast with everybody you know. We're really just trying to give great information. This is raw and uncut. We do not edit this. This is what you see is what you get, because that's the kind of people that I am and that David Marks is. So, Dave, if you don't have anything else, my name's Jay Grossman. I'm the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent.com, and this is Mr.
David Marks, Quality Auto STL, trusted services with no surprises.
Next week, we are going to have an amazing show. We have so many questions coming in. We're going to do another question and answer live session. You have your questions, send them to us. Send them in the comments below. Anywhere where you see comments, you're listening to this podcast, Put them in there. We're reading everything. Send them to info@ilikeintegrityautoagent.com. That's info@iautoagent.com. We're going to try to cover as many ones as we can. We appreciate everybody's loyal support, and we'll see you next week. Dave, you have a good one, buddy.
You too, Jay. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.